Welcome back to It Tastes Like Burning. This is Matt.
This is Jesse.
And we appreciate everyone listening. We'll give you our little flash fry on the podcast notes. You can always reach out to us at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. You can find us at Twitter at ITLBcast. And you can find us on Reddit at ITLBcast. And if you're feeling real spicy, you can support us on Patreon and find us at It Tastes Like Burning there. For today's little topic, we figured we'd kind of segue into something kind of serious, but truthfully, it's going to be kind of silly too. And at the end of the day, it's just doing a personal check on your own personal health. And literally what we're talking about is just your physical health. Me speaking from personal experience, I've always been short, always been fat, decided to lose a bunch of weight. Oh, it's probably 3-4 years ago now. And managed to lose a lot of weight and then managed to get kind of fat again. So I should theoretically start working on that. But let's go through the list of things that I'm diabolically opposed against. Running, exercise, working out, and let's see, gyms, and running shoes. I like flip-flops. And, anything like that.
So it just leaves you with diet and steroids, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I tried the diet front and found actually pretty good success with that, shockingly. I won't go into the full mantra how I did it, but I went on the keto craze diet and I don't know, in something like 9 months, lost 105 pounds in 8 months. Got down to 190, but my body truly didn't like 190 at all. I had done calorie restriction and all that other stuff leading up to that, but 190 was too light for me. I found that I'm most personally comfortable at like 210, 220, and I'm probably 250 right now.
Yeah. You know, all of us have a point there where we realize, hey, we've abused this thing enough. We got to do something. And you see it in a bunch of different guys and different times. Like we've got one guy that he was probably 425, 450.
I can think of two.
Did the bypass the gastric surgery?
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, okay. So, yeah, this individual, he was easily in excess of 350. Yeah. Easily in excess of 350. Did bypass. It was kind of funny. I thought he was going to be the only person on the face of history that had gained weight coming off of bypass. And he
wears smaller pants than me now.
Yeah, he's dropped way, way, way down. I bet you he doesn't weigh
200 pounds.
Yeah, I'll say 210 at the absolute maximum, but there's no way he's 210. Now on this individual, he's late middle aged. As far as I know, had no other huge major health concerns, and he didn't have like this huge health scare, like a heart attack at 40. But he just realized he was heavy and really wanted to do something about that. Go down the rabbit hole a little bit on that. I know that you can have some pretty serious health issues after you have a gastric bypass, particularly like on the electrolyte front. But this particular individual, he's not an interior firefighter. He's a support and operations guy. So as far as having a major electrolyte imbalance on him, from overworking, I don't really see that being a problem.
No, but he is getting a little more froggy about the things he wants to do, which is great. I mean, he's definitely more agile, more mobile, and able to participate a lot more. So, he's getting out of it and really followed his diet and did all the things he was supposed to do that his doctors told him to do. So
Right.
that's, why he's had positive results.
Yeah, it's yeah, I didn't even think of that when we were starting this conversation. Yeah, he's a good example of that. Now, if you were a young man or woman and you were particularly heavy or really heavy and wanting to be very active on the fireside, I actually really wouldn't recommend that you do something as truly as irreversible as gastric bypass. I truly think that you'll be able to do it through diet and working out. I made my joke about working out. I used to work out a lot when I was younger. Just haven't really in the last, I don't know, 8 years or so. Used to do a lot of powerlifting. Was very active in sports as a kid, and even very active in college and out of college. And I've gotten lucky for being as heavy as I was and not having a lot of major health problems going into my 30s, and well, I'll be 40 soon. So I've been very lucky on that front. I can probably chalk some of that up to genetics, particularly on my mom's side of the family. She's always had like the blood work of a meditating Hindu cow.
Yeah.
And so I think I got lucky on that front too.
And I've always been on the healthier end of things. And, I'd go through spurts of working out. And, at 40, I could do handstand push ups. Now I can roll over and pull a rope and get 3 people to help get me up. But, it's 45, man. Something about after that, things just started going downhill. I get bifocals and fat and all these good things, have terrible lab work, that they're gonna can scrape enough oil out of my veins to fry some chicken. Just the good stuff that I've never worried about because I've always been pretty healthy. And get that physical done, get that blood work drawn every once in a while, and you're like, that's not great.
Right. And on the blood work front, that's one thing. It's kind of a project I've always wanted to have for the department as a whole. Is I've always wanted, never been able to pull the trigger on it, but just to have blood work done on everyone every year. And it's not for trying to catch something. The whole purpose of doing that is so that you have a baseline of blood work, theoretically starting in your 20s, going through your 30s into your 40s, or whenever something happens, so that when the doctor says, well, when did this start? Well, you can literally sit there and say, well, I have 15 years of data showing that this new trend happened this year.
Yeah.
It's not for a diagnosing front. It's just for literally a personal health front.
We just recently had that, and I can't remember the exact name of the class, but it's the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation Cancer Awareness class. Okay, so it's the same class across the country. So if you're in the United States, this class is free and available to you through some market that in Texas, Teeks is who spins that up for everybody to get access to it. And it's a required class for the commission and probably soon to be a required class for the State Firemen and Fire Marshals Association. But one of the things that was in that class that they were talking about was you doing that annual blood work. And even if you don't do anything else as far as a physical, don't go do a full-on cardiac deal and stress test and all that stuff. But if you get that blood work and there's trends there, you can see them. And then one of the things, there's evidently just a bulk cancer blood test. I guess it's just reads, and I always thought it was white blood cell count, but it's not necessarily that. It's a separate test. And firefighters, basically all the main insurance companies agree that they'll pay for that for firefighters because of the increased risk of cancer. that we've moved to the top of the list, right? It used to be the shipyard workers and the plumbers and all the guys that were just chewing on asbestos popsicles all day long. Well, now it's not those guys, it's us. And I think it was always pretty bad, but it's more prevalent now with some of the things that are in the products of combustion that we're dealing with, right?
Yeah, well, it's just the complete and utter change of fire science. I mean, we can go to really about 1960,
Yeah.
but truly today,
Yeah,
where
probably even into the late 80s, it really probably
truly changed.
changed, right?
And I mean, it's just the level of, and I don't want to make it like this conspiracy type thing or try and stand on a soapbox, but the level of processing of everything around us today, it's been processed 4, 5, 12 times before it finally becomes the final product and reaches you.
Yeah.
And those are really, really aggressive processes when those happen. And there's just a colossal amount of chemicals that's being added to everything, not only in your daily life and what you're consuming, but particularly when we go on the fire side. I mean, you're just not dealing with the common byproducts of just traditional combustion, of where, your vast majority of your off gases was nothing but carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide.
Yeah.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, carbon dioxide and monoxide are, I mean, you'd rather have a scoop full of that every day
Well,
versus the benzenes.
the monoxide is actually a greater carcinogen in a lower dose than even some of the benzenes and stuff. That was one of the things that shocked me in that class. There was a
Oh, I didn't even know that. So obviously I need to go to the class.
yeah, class was a great class, and if probably the 20-year-old kid doesn't care anything about that class. Like
Right.
it's just dropping a seed at that point. But the 47-year-old guy, he's like, oh yeah, well, crap. Probably should pay attention to some of this stuff a little bit more. And definitely some of those guys that were in there in their 60s or whatever, they're sitting there looking at that and they remember before it was so bad.
Right.
So interesting stuff and really good class. We did follow that up this last month also with the it's also through the National Fallen Firefighters. So they put out all the Courage to Be Safe, the cancer class, and this one called LACK, LACK, that we just did this last week, and it was a good class. It gets off into the culture and it's leadership, accountability, culture, and knowledge. So that's what makes up the LACK, and you don't want to be lacking, right? It's a pretty good class, and so there's some good stuff out there that, it's a little bit out of the norm in the sense that it's not tactics and it's not some of those other things that you train on pretty regular. It's not a medical call. It's not any of that stuff. It's really about kind of an introspective look in who you are and what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, it's there's a lot of information that's just now starting to kind of come filter to the top. And I hate to use these guys as the example for awareness, but it seems like firefighter awareness truly happened after 9/11.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the start of it, right?
And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of, there was a very prominent New York firefighter that was involved in the cleanup process. And he died quick after 9/11, 2-3 years after 9/11 from his exposure to everything down there. And there was kind of I want to say slow rolling national trend of like, you need to check your exposures. And over time, it's really just like a classic avalanche. Started small, but it's really picked up steam now.
And a lot of stuff, even my time, and I started in 99. So kind of there was already, we talked about keeping your gear clean and all that stuff was happening back then. Like wash your gear, wear your air pack, that there's carcinogens. Like there was conversation about it, but for the most part, it was just blown off as, you know, that's years down the road, blah blah blah, and I don't have to worry about that. But you're seeing now that some of these guys that are 5 years on the job are ending up with these crazy cancers that don't. There's no other root cause other than their exposure in the fire service, and what they're figuring out is that where we thought, you know, we'd fight the fire and we'd go over there and overhaul and kick our air pack off, that the levels of this stuff during overhaul are 10 times higher than the levels of it during the initial attack, right?
Which, if you take a basic just thought process on it, it actually makes a lot of sense that it would operate that way. The fire is literally consuming
all that stuff.
Consuming all that stuff. It's literally fuel to the fire. It's burning it off. So the second you put the fire out, well, the area is still hot. You still have this colossal amount of off-gassing that's happening. And now there's no way for that chemical to be consumed. And it's just being left in that immediate atmosphere, in immediate area. And then it's trapped and confined inside a house. So you're walking into a room with vapor displacement of oxygen, and you're breathing oxygen levels, you know, in the single percentiles, you know, very low double digits, but at least 80% of the atmosphere is nothing but carbon monoxide.
Yeah. Or polyaromatic hydrocarbons or whatever it is. You know, there's all this stuff.
So we had someone walk in for a second there, and we had to talk to him, so we had to kind of backtrack on what we were listening to. But there's lots of things that you can do generally just to help monitor your own health. I mean, and don't overthink this. You know, if you're sleeping like crap, that's a major, major contributor to personal health.
Well, and just stress, life stress,
sure.
Right? You know, that stress wreaks havoc on us every day. You know, that I'd attribute a lot of my personal problems to stress.
Right.
You know, just the stress of running a business, the stress of a kid graduating and going off to college, the stress of the fire service, just stress in general.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's real simple to say, well, just go to a gym. Well, you know, for a lot of people, particularly on the volunteer side, that's not necessarily just an option.
Well, it's a trade-off, right? What am I going to give up? What hours of the day am I going to give up for that?
Right.
Because the only ones that are semi-negotiable right now are the sleep hours, which is typically only 5 or 6 hours a day. You know, how do I give up an hour of my 5 or 6 hours of sleeping? That doesn't make sense either.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and here's an easy way I can describe it. So I work nights. So Monday, I wake up around 11 or 12, make my lunch. I go to the fire station from 12 to 3. I leave for work at 3. I'm usually there at 4. I work 10 hours. I leave at 2, get home at 3, and then I'm usually up anywhere between 6 to 8 a.m., and then I go to sleep, and I wake up. That's Monday through Thursday. And if we're working overtime that week, you can throw Friday in there. So there's no time in there. And the type of work I do, I'm not going to a gym after work. I've been standing for 10 hours straight. I'm not necessarily physically working hard, but it's not a job where I'm not trying to hammer anyone that works at a computer all day, but I'm not sitting at a computer all day and typing.
It's not eye strain.
Right. And so Monday and Thursday's out. Well, Friday's when I schedule all of my city and county stuff and meetings. So Friday's out. And quite frankly, I'm tired and I'm not going to go to the gym on that day. And at that point, I mean, yeah, okay, fine. I guess I could work out 1 or 2 days a week, but you're not getting any true benefit at that point because you need to work out 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
Now, so I've made a bunch of excuses. How else can I contribute to my health? Well, I've never naturally been a really long sleeper. The funny thing is that I monitor my sleep on my watch and phone. And when I do go to sleep, we're talking I go to sleep. And it's not lay in bed for 6 hours and read a book and watch TV. I'm telling you, if there was a gold medal record, world record for time in bed to sleep, I might hold that record.
Yeah. I generally about 30 seconds after my head hits the pillow or on the way to the pillow.
Yeah, I'm out. And when I monitor my sleep, and I know that's not an official sleep study and none of that, but I immediately go into REM sleep. And the crazy thing is that I actually get between 3 and 3.5 hours of REM sleep each night, which is way, way, way above, which is typically normal for most people that are sleeping 6 to 8 to 9 hours a day. So I feel pretty confident in my quality of sleep. In that, in my entire time operating, I'm not exhausted walking around. I feel fine. I don't take naps throughout the day. A lot of that, I think, is through diet. I'm still really strict on my diet. And to compound that, I think the other thing that I need to do, because I'm starting to get to that magic age of 40, is that when something's wrong or something feels like it's off, maybe I need to go invest a little time with the old doctor. Maybe do some blood work. Maybe see what's going on. Because ideally, the average human lifespan in the U.S. is what? Males 74 or 6?
Somewhere right in there. I know it's gone up a little bit in the last couple of years.
Well, it's dropped with COVID.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm gonna say 76. So, if you live to 77, you're beating the average. So that's where we're at. And I think there's a lot of other stuff that you can do from a basic level to help maintain yourself. But you have to do it. And I'll go on the exact opposite of this side of this, and I'll use a reference of a family member. Him and his wife arguably had a more classic Texan dinner and kind of like food lifestyle where they ate a lot, and it was definitely very good Southern food. And they also happened to appreciate Keystone quite a bit.
Yeah.
And between my aunt and uncle, they'd be able to handle a case Keystones each and every night for themselves, if not a lot more. And it just caught up with them. It just did. My aunt, she passed in her late 60s, and my uncle passed in his early 70s. And I have no unequivocal questions attributing their early deaths to literally lifestyle and the way they ate and drank.
Well, and both of my grandfathers died in their 50s. Of course, they were both World War II veterans. Like, one of them was a bomber pilot, and the other one was a POW, a German POW in World War II. So there's no telling what they were exposed to, right? But yeah, both of them died in their 50s.
Heart attacks or cancer?
Cancer.
Both
of them.
Yeah. I don't want to be too optimistic about it and tell you that if you run a marathon a week and have an apple a day that you're going to live to be 112. You can still get run over by a scooter on a street corner.
And that doesn't... people like that have heart attacks and kill over or end up... Lance Armstrong gets the old testicular cancer. That guy's an epitome of...
physical health.
Yeah.
Peak physical health.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily any of that, but I firmly believe that if it comes in a box or a bag, it's probably not good for you. Don't eat it.
Pretty solid advice.
Like, I just feel like the preservatives and some of that stuff that's in what we consume nowadays, like some of that stuff's probably not the greatest thing for us. There's no I don't know if there's no real evidence or there's just no real studies that are made popular, right? Because that you don't want to tell everybody, hey, the crap you're eating is terrible for you, even though it says healthy whatever on the box or the bag. So I think some of that stuff's definitely to our detriment, and I firmly believe that the good wholesome home cooked fruits and vegetables and meat and all that's bound to be better for you than something that came in a bag that was cooked in a factory.
Right. And along the lines of what you're talking about, so theoretically, eating healthy is more expensive. We'll call it by the ounce or by the gram. And technically it is. But here's the kicker. I can tell you from personal experience, the more that I focused on what I was eating and controlling what I was eating and not just buying crap to buy it, my actual grocery bill went down exponentially each week because I was just intentionally controlling the stuff I was putting into my body. So you went from an average grocery bill for just myself, let's say $125, $150 a week, and this was all kind of like pre-COVID type stuff.
But, well, yeah, now because that's a dozen eggs right now, right?
Or maybe 2 dozen. And but I mean, I had grocery bills for the week as low as $45 and $50 for the week. And it was because I was just controlling my diet that far.
Well, and I think that once you establish a pantry of stuff, right, that's not just granola bars and Pop-Tarts.
Right.
And you have actual fruits and vegetables and meats and the actual ingredients to stuff, then as that works through, you need less of everything every time. It just stuff keeps and you rotate out and
right. And then some of it's also energy density. You know, a steak is going to have a lot more energy in it than a box of cereal.
Right.
Just really boils down to proteins and fats and the amount of energy available versus the amount of energy available in carbs.
And when you break it down, cereal was invented by a lunatic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Kellogg.
Yeah. Straight up lunatic.
Yeah, that was to help sick patients, and I can't remember what part of Michigan.
Yeah.
But it was in Michigan, and to control their diet. And all they were eating was cornflakes.
Yeah.
Kill me now. That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of come back on track and is just, pay attention to what your body's telling you. I've always had a personal beef on kind of like, like the obesity charts. I have a friend that's literally 7'6". Okay. He is very, very thin at 280 pounds. Okay. I am a midget at 4 feet tall and weigh 500 pounds. We're not going to have the same blood work. We're not. It's going to be different, and it's going to be different per person. Now, things that can exacerbate or expand or inflict or control is the commonality may be the fire scene, where we're being exposed to the same chemicals, but our bodies are even going to process those chemicals differently.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of that's going to be environment, diet.
Right. I mean,
metabolism.
There's a lot that you can control, and there's a lot that you can't control, and there's some of this where you just need to be smart.
And I'll tell you one thing that I wish I had versus I get labs back and they're not great. They're not terrible. I'm not dying or anything. Like, it's time to spend a little effort and focus on some of that stuff, right? But I wish I had the labs from 5 years ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago when I felt young and invincible.
Right.
And I don't, because I was young and invincible and I didn't give a crap about going to the doctor. And anymore, I mean, I go see this doctor, and it's like an a la carte. It's like a menu. It's like walking into the Taco Bell, and you just look up and you go, yeah, I want one of those, and I want one of those, and I want one of those, and it's $250, and I got 2 pages of lab work.
Right.
So it's not this obscenely expensive thing to go get this stuff done. It's literally the one I go to, like, they want cash. It's cash on the barrelhead kind of deal, and it's cheaper to do that than it would be to meet a deductible or go do all these co-pays and all that stuff.
Right.
You don't have to do it necessarily through your insurance. Just go do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you spend just a little bit of, well, it's more than a little bit of time, but you can personally invest time, energy, and money in your own time, money and energy into actually understanding like what tests you really should be taking to help judge your current health. And it's a lot more than just basic blood work. I mean, those really, really high-end athletes and high-end special force operators, they're doing blood work every 2 weeks, and they're testing for very specific stuff, and they're doing a colossal amount of time, energy, and effort to try and control one factor in their blood work to see if they can raise or lower this one thing to see what their ultimate performance outcome will be off of it. That can still be applicable to us right now. But if you're not doing anything to even remotely, not even keep your health in check, it's just to be aware.
Right.
That, I mean, how do you start anywhere? Or you ultimately turn into, I'm going to reference my aunt and uncle again, it's too late.
Yeah.
You've done 40, 50 years worth of damage, and there's no one doing it now that you have pancreatic cancer. Like, it's done. There's no reason to stop eating chicken fried steak now.
In fact, get another one.
Right. Because you're not going to have too many more to have. I mean, I hate to be dark about it, but, be smart about it and, pay attention to what your body's telling you, and don't be afraid to actually go see a doctor and ask questions.
And the things that shorten the lifespan, say 100, 200 years ago, when the average man lived to be 40, right? And now it's in the 70s. But it wasn't...
Scurvy's not too prevalent now.
Yeah, well, and it was dental.
Right.
Right? It's your teeth. It was the teeth that was killing them back then because they couldn't eat anymore and they were malnourished, or it was a famine. And yeah, we could potentially see a famine in our day and age, but it's not very likely. Like, the worst thing that's going to happen is they're not going to have toilet paper when everybody rushes out and buys toilet paper.
Yeah, by the super tanker.
But the capitalist society we live in, somebody's going to figure out how to get more food there because they're going to want to make the 300 or 400% off of it.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be there. Like, it may cost you a fortune, but it'll happen. I mean, you hear all the talk of food deserts and all that stuff, but have you ever actually been to a place that's a food desert or seen one?
I only know of one in the world right now.
Yeah.
It's Lebanon.
Yeah. It's just not common, and it's not we're in the developed world, and it's just not common. So
yeah, I think we'll probably keep it shorter today on that, unless you have anything else to add.
No.
Okay. No, it's just, don't be afraid to do a personal health check, and sometimes if you're dealing with something that you have, but you're not getting followed up on it, don't be stupid about that. I know of some young guys that have died way too early and I know a woman that died early of colon cancer. She was 33. I know some young guys that have died of prostate problems young, and it's just because it's frankly embarrassing.
That was one of the tests that I had run on this a la carte menu, and the PSA was like $15 or $20.
Right.
I don't even meet the age requirement to have a PSA done, but I went ahead and had one done because it was $15 or $20. Like, the access to that stuff, like you don't even have to have a doctor's order.
Oh yeah, no, you just walk in and have
Say,
the lab
I
work
want
done.
this done, and they take your money, and a phlebotomist draws us 4 or 5 vials of blood, and you're on your way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you don't even have to talk to a doctor. And here's the kicker: in X amount of time, few days, right?
Yeah, a week maybe.
You'll get your results,
And then the doctor can look at it.
Yeah, and then if you have something wonky come up on your results, you can take the results to the doctor and be like, I need your medical degree right now.
Yeah,
so
it's not what it was 25 years ago.
Right.
You know, it's just a different world in the a la carte medicine, and that's about the best way to describe it. It's literally a la carte.
Yeah, literally, you can just go in and get whatever you want, however you want.
Yep.
And the lab testing stuff's not expensive.
No. Well, even CTs and all that stuff. Like I had a CT done on my daughter this last year, and it was like less than $300
Outside of the hospital.
outside of the hospital.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I can remember being a kid and breaking an arm and going to the ER, and the x-rays in the ER were $1,200 or $1,500.
Right.
And we're talking about 35 years ago. So, you know, to be able to just go get a CT for $300, that's pretty reasonable in my world.
Yeah, good deal. But yeah, just spend a little time on yourself. Don't hesitate to be cognizant. And if you are breaking yourself down, figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure out a way to change it up.
Absolutely.
That's all I got.
That's it.
Okay, appreciate it, and have a good one.